Hey everyone, Dr. Amber here. I'm a clinical psychologist, and today I want to talk to you about the second shift. If you don't know what the second shift is, trust me, we will talk all about that, but I will let you know it is probably something that parents experience after they leave work and then they have to go home and care for children. Right? Sounds familiar. So, today we're going to be talking about overwhelm and overstimulation that can come during that second shift. I'm going to explain everything you need to know about the second shift. We're going to talk about the differences between overwhelm and overstimulation, what those signs and symptoms are that you should be looking out for. But then we're going to also talk strategies because I know you're really here to know what do I do during the second shift when I am tired, when I'm overwhelmed, when I'm fatigued, but there are still so many things to do. And I also still really want to connect with my kids. Don't worry, I've got you covered. Before we get started, I want to remind you that everything that I talk about in this workshop today comes from my brand new book, A Parent's Guide to Self-Regulation, a practical framework for breaking the cycles of dysregulation and mastering emotions for parents and children. I suspect that if you find the information in this workshop today helpful, you also will find the book very helpful. So go ahead, tap the link in my bio so that you can pre order your copy. Okay, let's talk about the second shift. Welcome back. And now let's really get into what do I mean when I say the second shift. You may have heard of this term before in reference to a work shift, but whenever I'm working with parents or when I'm talking about parenting, for me, the second shift means that time period after a work day and before you go to bed, where maybe you're coming home from work, or if you're working from home, you finish your work day and then it is time to be with your family. So for you, that might look like going to pick up your kids from school and then doing some family time, having dinner. Or if you were a stay at home parent, that means maybe you in your work day and then join the family there. Whatever it might mean for you, it is that period of time where it follows your workday and then moves into family time. This time frame generally might be between 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., 4 to 7 p.m. But regardless, it always is indicative of that time following a workday and then before bedtime. So let's talk about this. Why is this time so challenging? Let's talk about some of the challenges. For one, during the second shift, there can feel like there's a lack of time. Many times throughout the second shift, it can feel like there's not enough time to get everything done. Many times in the second shift, you might be needing to cook dinner. Maybe you need to clean up from the day. Maybe you need to pack lunches for the rest of the day or the rest of the week. Maybe there's still some more work for you to finish. But then you also still want to be able to connect with your family. How do you get all of that done in a 3 to 4 hour time period? It can feel like there's a lack of time, which can be really stressful. Another challenge in the second shift is that lack of energy. For working parents, many of us go to work during the day and then we come home to our families in the evening time. But I don't know about you, after a work day, sometimes I am physically and mentally exhausted. And depending on how strenuous your day might be, you may experience this lack of energy, lack of motivation. You might even feel some frustration and some irritation because what you really might want to do is just go home, relax, enjoy some time to yourself. However, there are so many other demands and responsibilities waiting for you when you get home. I often have parents with this challenge specifically talk about some grief and loss related to becoming a parent. For many of us, prior to becoming a parent, we had an abundance of time where we were able to just get off of work, come home, get a drink, get a snack, relax, watch some TV, spend some time with friends, enjoy a meal. But when you become a parent, that really shifts, and the evening time really becomes centered around family time, caring for your children, but then also preparing for the next day. And that can feel exhausting. Okay, what's another challenge that comes with the second shift? Sometimes it can feel like there's a lack of support, especially if you're already exhausted, especially if you're already tired. Let's talk about people who maybe have larger families or there are not enough adults or enough caretakers in the family to really care for all the needs. And so if you're experiencing that, it can absolutely feel like the demands, the responsibilities, the challenges that come in the second shift, there's not enough hands, there's not enough caretakers to really make sure that everything is handled. And that can be really, really frustrating as well. Lastly, during the second shift, many of the parents that I work with experience overstimulation, overwhelm, which can be very irritating, can be very frustrating. And there are signs and symptoms for that too, which we will talk about in another part. What are some of the implications of the second shift? Well, often when I think of the second shift, it helps me to realize that for many people, there feels like an unequal burden. And this is something that I think disproportionately occurs for women or individuals who care for more of the responsibilities. It might be that that person may work a full workday, but then at home, feel as if they have a lot more responsibilities and demands than their partner. And that can also cause some stress or tension in the parenting relationship, the co parent relationship, the partnership. And that's not something that we want, but it happens often. It can also feel like your work life balance is disrupted because let's be honest, parenting sometimes can feel like work. And for many of you, I don't know if you've had this experience, but sometimes parenting feels like more work than my actual work. And so what does that mean when you work a full work day or you have a full-time job, but then you're also feeling as if you're putting in a lot of work and a lot of effort to care for your family? Where is the work-life balance? It may feel like there's a lot more work than life happening. And that is also something we don't want. Lastly, let's talk about the mental and emotional toll that the second shift can take. Parenting is lifelong. Yes, our kids become adults eventually, but we are always their parent. And when they are small, those days can feel long, they can feel hard, they can be daunting. And if you're lucky, they will come every single day. So, what does that mean for your mental and emotional health? It means that you might be at risk for some mental health challenges or some mental health obstacles if we're not doing the right things to make sure we're taking care of ourselves. Hi, Dr. Amber again, and I hope you are starting to get a sense of what I mean when I say the second shift, and also having a deeper understanding of why this time period can feel so hard and why it's impacting you the way that it is. Let's now talk about overstimulation, overwhelm. What do we really mean when we say those terms? Often, what I find, especially on social media or online, we use those terms interchangeably. Oh, I'm overwhelmed. Oh, I'm feeling overstimulated. Sometimes they can feel like they mean the same thing when really they are different. However, what is true is that these two love to run together, okay? Overstimulation and overwhelm are like best friends. And so that's why I think we often use the terms interchangeably. But I want to help you understand what we mean when we say overstimulation and overwhelm and how to know which one you are experiencing. When we are overwhelmed, what that means is that you are feeling overloaded with tasks, responsibilities, and demands. So think about a cup of water and you're filling that water, and the water represents all of the things you need to do. Eventually, the cup will get full, 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 and start to overflow. That cup is overwhelmed. There's too many demands, there's too many responsibilities, there's too many tasks that is reflected by the water or represented by the water. There's too much water, there's too many things, there's too much in the cup, and the cup is starting to overflow, but not in a good way. In a bad way. That is overwhelmed. When you feel like you could just explode with all of the demands, all of the things, all of the thoughts, all of the feelings, there's too much. It's an overload. So that's what we mean when we say overwhelmed. There's too much packed into this tiny body, this tiny head, this tiny space, and it just needs a break. So, what is overstimulation? Overstimulation is something that we refer to when we are thinking about excessive sensory or cognitive input leading to stress and anxiety. So, whenever I am talking about overstimulation, I am often thinking about our senses, our five senses. So, I'm thinking about our sight, I'm thinking about our sense of smell, I'm thinking about our sense of taste, I'm absolutely thinking about our auditory sense, and I'm thinking about our feeling. What do we feel? When we feel overstimulated, any one of those five senses can be too filled to the max. So essentially it's like, well, my at this point my senses are overwhelmed. My senses are experiencing too much. There is a sensory overload, excessive sensory or cognitive input. And when we feel like our senses are overloaded, whether it is our visual, auditory, olfactory, touch, often moms feel touched out, or even sometimes it can be our thoughts, our emotions can feel overstimulating. That can feel very stressful and lead to anxiety and irritability. So when we say overstimulated, think your senses. Your senses are overstimulated. Some good examples: many times if the lights are too high, that can be overstimulating. If there's too many sounds or too many noises all at once, that's overstimulating. If you are in a place where there's a lot of movement, a lot of lights flashing, that's overstimulating. Or if you are a parent and maybe you have multiple children and they're all crawling on you, all want touches and hugs and kisses all at the same time, that can feel overstimulating for you as well. So, what are the signs and the symptoms? Another thing about overwhelm and overstimulation is that the signs and the symptoms can look the same. So, that's why it's going to require some awareness on your part to really figure out what's going on here. Am I feeling overwhelmed by my demands, my responsibilities, my obligations, or am I feeling overstimulated? Is my physical body or my thoughts or my emotions feeling like they are flooded? Whichever one is happening for you, that will be important because that's how you'll know what to do about it. But here are some of the signs and the symptoms. When someone is feeling overwhelmed, when someone is feeling overstimulated, they likely feel fatigued. You can feel tired, drained, like you need to go to sleep or you just need to lay down. You'll have difficulty concentrating. Could you imagine trying to concentrate and focus on something when you are overwhelmed and overstimulated? However, this is something that parents attempt to do every single day, particularly during that second shift. So, no wonder you're having trouble concentrating. No wonder it's not working for you to continue to do some work in the second shift because you're already overwhelmed and overstimulated. Many parents find that they become really irritable when they're overwhelmed or when they're feeling overstimulated. And this can bring on some feelings of guilt or regret because they may feel, oh, I'm snapping at my kid more than I want to. I'm not being my best self. I'm not showing up as the parent that I want. I really want to connect with my children, but I'm also just feeling so on edge. It likely is because you're feeling some overwhelm and some overstimulation during that second shift. It can be so hard to make decisions during this time. Making decisions when you're feeling overwhelmed and when you're overstimulated can be so impossible. That's why you're having a hard time figuring out what's for dinner because you're already overwhelmed, you're already overstimulated, you're likely exhausted from the day, and so it will be much harder to make a decision. We'll talk about a strategy for that later. And then lastly, feeling overwhelmed, feeling overstimulated can also make you feel isolated. Sometimes you feel alone. Sometimes you wonder, am I the only one going through this? Sometimes you feel like you want to hide. Sometimes you don't want to share how you feel. All of that is valid. And what I know is that the more that you close out from other people, the more that you avoid sharing how you're feeling, whether it's to your partner, your co parent, or someone else that you trust, the more isolated you feel. And that can bring on bigger mental health challenges like depression, more anxiety, and that also is not what we want. Hey, welcome back to the series. I hope you're feeling a little bit more confident with regard to how you're going to approach the second shift. Now that you know what the second shift means, you know the challenges, you know the implications for you, you know how to tell whether you're overwhelmed or you're overstimulated, you know the mental health toll it can take. That now means we need to talk strategies. What are we going to do about this? Because let's face it, let's be honest, we're going to continue to have to experience the second shift. We are going to continue to deal with overwhelm and overstimulation, but there are things that we can do to manage it and to cope. So let's be clear right now. Nothing here is a magic antidote. Nothing here is a magic pill. There will always be challenges when you are a parent. There will always be challenges when you are a working parent or a stay at home parent. So, nothing I say here today is going to take those challenges away, but rather, everything I say here today is going to help you learn how to better manage the challenges that you face so they become easier and less of a burden for you. Let's do it. Strategy number one: are you setting boundaries? I know we hear this term a lot, we hear this phrase a lot, set boundaries here, set boundaries there. But when you become a parent and we're talking about the challenges in the second shift, boundaries are absolutely needed. So, what type of boundaries should you be setting? You should definitely be setting some boundaries with regard to your work life and your family life. Okay, because trust me, I realize and I understand the pressures that can come when you have a full time job, when you have a career, when you are an entrepreneur. Sometimes it feels like the work doesn't stop. However, what I also know as a psychologist and a parent myself is that when I am in situations or when my clients are in situations where they are trying to do multiple things at one time, that leads to overstimulation and overwhelm very quickly, especially when it involves children. So, have you ever been in a situation where you're trying to parent while also get work done at the same time? It is so frustrating. It's so irritating, and it can lead you to become more frustrated and irritated with your children when really they are not to blame. And instead, it's that you didn't set the proper boundaries around the family time in the second shift. So, what I encourage you to do is really think more strategically about your day. Where do you need to set some boundaries so that you don't find yourself double dipping in your roles? You don't find yourself trying to multitask. You don't find yourself trying to do multiple things at once, especially when it comes to your roles and identities. I highly encourage during the second shift, as much as possible, because I do realize life happens, things are challenging. As much as possible, try to stay in the role of parent and family orientation time as you can during the second shift. So set that boundary around when your workday ends or when your time ends and when it's time to move into family time or parenting so that you can really focus on that time and be present. Strategy number 2, let's create a schedule, okay? Because one thing I know about the second shift is that it can feel out of control sometimes. While that time period typically may only be 2 to 4 hours, it feels like you're in a time warp where the time just goes and goes, and it can sometimes feel like 8 hours or 1,000 hours when really it was just a short period of time. Why it feels like that is sometimes there's not a schedule. Maybe you're not knowing what to expect because every day feels different, or maybe you're being a little too loose with regard to what's happening during that time. But a schedule can really help you to feel more at ease because you'll know what to expect, what to anticipate, but also your kids will as well. So let's talk about a schedule. Creating a schedule can help you feel more in control of your time. And when we're talking about overstimulation, overwhelm, anxiety, stress, the more control that we feel, the better. Okay, I know we can't control everything, but if I can give you a little sense of control, especially during the second shift, I want to do that for you. So I want you really to be thinking about how is the day going to flow with the second shift? When is dinner time? When is family time? When is TV time or tablet time or screen time? When is snack time? When is bath time? When is bedtime? When are you actually going to plan something for you? When's your 5 minutes to just chill and to decompress? When is your 10 minutes to just go escape? Whatever it is that needs to be scheduled, schedule it in the time so that you feel like you're in control and the second shift is not in control of you. Strategy number 3 is time to delegate. Because again, second shift has started and you are already exhausted. You're showing up exhausted. You're showing up tired, fatigued, you want to take a nap, but you know you got to push through. So, what happens often or sometimes is that we maybe are taking on too much during the second shift. We're doing too many things, and instead, we need to be delegating some of the tasks. We need to be collaborating with other people so that the second shift can feel smoother. So, what does delegating and collaborating look like? If you have a partner or a co-parent who is there with you in the second shift, that means you two being on the same page about here are all the things that need to be done and whose responsibility is what. That can take a lot of the burden and the worry off of one particular person, which often ends up being the woman or the mother in that situation, to feel like she needs to do it all. And instead, this is a shared experience. This is a shared opportunity for us to divide and conquer so that we can get to the end of the second shift in one piece, but also feeling some contentment because we've had fun time with our family, we've enjoyed the family, we've had a good dinner, and now it's time to relax, right? If you do not have a co-parent or a partner to share the experience of the second shift with you, I want you to be thinking about the second shift in this way. What are some of the ways that we can take some of those responsibilities or some of those tasks and make them easier for you? Are there ways that you can outsource, or are there ways that you can scale down the level of difficulty with some of the things? For instance, maybe you decide that every Monday and Wednesday you all are going to order food out. Or maybe you decide that every Tuesday and Thursday you all are going to do dinner with another family because it's easier to do that when you are sharing the responsibility. Or maybe you decide that your children are old enough now to handle bath time on their own. Maybe you decide that the children are old enough now where you don't have to do that load of laundry this evening, but they can do it. So really thinking about the ways that you can delegate with your community, you can delegate through outsourcing, or you can delegate and be collaborative with your children. And look, even my 2-year-old helps a little bit, okay? Delegate, collaborate with your children so that you are not doing everything in the second shift. Okay, let's talk about taking a break. I know that this can sound counterintuitive because the whole reason why we're overwhelmed and overstimulated, feeling stressed during the second shift is because we feel like we need more breaks, right? Well, guess what? You probably can take a break during this time. And maybe we just need to shift your mindset around it. Because let's imagine maybe you work a full work day, or maybe you had a full productive day, whatever it is for you. Once that 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock time period hits, most humans are exhausted or tired or feeling a little fatigued during that time. For some parents, they feel the need to just keep on going because the fear is if I stop, I may not be able to keep up the energy that I need to get through the rest of the day. And so the mistake that they make is that they keep going. They don't take a break. They don't sit and rest for a little bit. They're like, okay, let me just get all this stuff done so that I can just get to the end of the day. That's a mistake. I actually don't want you to do that. If you are beginning your second shift and you're realizing, oh my gosh, I'm tired. Oh my gosh, I'm so irritable. I don't think I can be present today. I don't think I can connect with the kids. I don't know if I can get done everything that needs to be done. Take a break. Take a break. So what that might look like is maybe instead of jumping right into the task and the demands, the responsibility that the second shift may bring, have a seat for 5 minutes. Have a seat for 10 minutes. No, it's not going to take all the exhaustion away. No, it's not going to take all the fatigue away, but it is a break. And it gives you a moment to gather yourself. It gives you a moment to take care of yourself. And that might be the energy or the boost you need to get through the rest of the day. If you have children who are used to you being on as soon as you begin that second shift, it's time to communicate to your kids that you also need a break. And you can simply have this conversation no matter the developmental age of your children and let them know, hey, I am tired. I'm human. I'm not feeling well. I need to sit down. I need to lay down. I need some time to myself. However you want to word that, but our children need to understand that we are human. We get tired and we also need breaks. So I want you to figure out where in the second shift will you take your break. It might be at the start of your second shift. It might be right in the middle of the second shift. But whatever it is, I don't want you to feel like you need to wait until the end of the night before you can sit down and have a moment for yourself. Lastly, let's talk about relaxation and connection during the second shift. Often when we think about the second shift, the first thing that we think about are all of the responsibilities. I need to pack lunches for the next day. I need to cook dinner for tonight. I need to put in that load of laundry. I need to clean up the kitchen. I need to help with bath time. I need to do such and such. I need to finish that project that I started. It's overwhelming, overstimulating, all the terms that we've talked about today. However, there is a big part of the second shift that sometimes if we're so overstimulated and so overwhelmed we can miss, and it is the opportunity to connect with your family. The reason why we had our families is because we value family, we value connection, and our kids want that. But I know more importantly, you want that. You want to be present with your kids. You want to have a good time with them. You likely do miss them when they're at school or when they're away or when you're not with them during the day. This is the perfect time to really prioritize relaxation and connection. And I want to just help you to shift your mindset and your your ideas about what should be happening in the evening hours at the end of the day. Yes, I know all the things you have to do, overwhelming. Yes, I know if you don't get these things done, they will just be added on to the next day, and that is not something you want. But I also know how you light up when you get to just sit and play a game with your kid. I know how much you crave that look in their eyes when you actually get to see something that they've done and they are proud of it. I know how badly you want to be able to have these continuous interactions with your kids that feel joyful, content, relaxing, so that the relationship with them will continue to develop and withstand the test of time. And so, what I'm trying to say to you is think about the ways that you can prioritize and plan some relaxation and connection with your family in the evenings. Maybe this might be after dinner, you all sit down and watch some TV together and cuddle on the couch. It could also be once you get in, you all talk about what was everyone's favorite part of their day. Or maybe it's eating dinner together and reviewing all of the everyone's day, right? Or maybe on Fridays you all do a game night. This doesn't have to be something you do every single day, but it is something I want you to be thinking about more. How can I make the second shift less overwhelming, less overstimulating, and make it more of something that can involve some relaxation and connection with my family too? I have three more thoughts I want to leave with you as we close out this series. But first, let me say thank you so much for being here, for watching this series, for listening to this. And I really am hopeful that it helps you in the next second shift that you experience to have more fun, have more joy, be more content, less overwhelmed, less overstimulation. I want the second shift to be something that feels more manageable for you. And my goal or my hope is that this workshop was helpful for you. So, three things I want you to know. One, you are not alone in this. If you are watching this today and you feel like, wow, I know I'm the only one that experiences this, I want to let you know that's a lie, because I have worked with so many parents who experience this on a day-to-day basis, and they too have wondered, am I the only one? Am I the only one who gets overwhelmed every single day in the evening with my kids? Am I the only one that becomes so irritable that I can't even be present? Am I the only one that sometimes dreads coming home because I know how hard it'll feel? Am I the only one that can't get this together? You're not the only one. I also know you're not the only one because it's something that I experience too. Yes, I'm a psychologist, and yes, I'm an author, but I'm also a parent. And let me tell you, parenting is real no matter who you are. And so, yes, I've definitely had moments and days where it felt like the evenings were just too much. And I didn't think I could make it through another second shift. And I used to dread the evenings because I knew how hard they would feel. But I was able to utilize different strategies and change my mindset around it. And that has helped me so much. And I really hope that some of the things we talked about today can help for you as well. Number two, you are not a bad parent if you are experiencing overwhelm, overstimulation, dysregulation in the evenings that sometimes interfere with your parenting. You're not a bad parent, and instead, it's an indication that you need more help, you need more support, you might need more skills, you might need a reframe or a new perspective to think about this specific time period, but then also how you show up as a parent. You're not a bad parent. There are just more things that you need to grow and to learn in this parenting season. And that's also why I did this workshop for you, because I know that sometimes we feel our worst when we are not showing up in the ways that we want, especially when it comes to our kids. However, that's not an internal flaw. It may just mean that, hey, you might need to read an article about this. You might need to watch a workshop about this. You might need to talk to someone about it. Maybe read a book about it. And then you've got it. And so no, you're not a bad parent if sometimes you yell in the second shift. You're not a bad parent if sometimes you are on your phone too much because you just can't handle one more question, or you're feeling so overwhelmed that you just need to zone out. You're not a bad parent if sometimes you just sit in the car or in the garage for 20, 30 minutes at a time because you know as soon as you walk in the door, things are just going to start. You're not a bad parent. You need more help. You need more support. And that's also why I'm here. I want to help you. I want to support you. And my third point is that there is help, there is support. I hope that you have subscribed to my YouTube channel so that you can watch more videos like this and better understand, how can I shift some things in my parenting? How can I take more care of myself? How can I make this easier? My hope is also that you will order my new book, A Parent's Guide to Self-Regulation. In that book, I talk about everything that I talked about today plus more. We talk in depth about the idea of self regulation and how the inability to self regulate as a parent can make you dysregulated. So you will have a lot more overwhelming moments. You will have a lot more overstimulation. You will have a lot more dysregulating second shifts that can feel impossible. But then also, sometimes when we're so dysregulated as parents, when we can't control our emotions, we can't control our physical bodies, we can't manage our overwhelm or overstimulation, that can spill over into how we parent, but then also the things that we're modeling for our kids. And that is also something I don't want to happen for you. I hope that you will order the new book and enjoy it, read it, because I know how badly you want to be able to show up as the parent that you know you can be. And I also know that maybe you had some experiences as a child that you are trying to unlearn or to break or make sure that they don't come into your parenting now. My new book can help you with that. So go ahead and order your copy. And I'm so excited for you to become the parent that you've always wanted to be. Thank you for watching today, and I hope to see you on the next one.